Hare Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, the preacher of the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for over 20 years now. Maharaj has traveled the length and breadth of the world, and we're very honored to have him here in Atlanta. So tonight we'll hear from him. He'll be enlightening us shortly, and then we'll do some more kirtan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'm very happy to be in Atlanta, to be here with you this evening. Yes, my name is Bhakti Sarvajna Gauranga Swami from Johannesburg, South Africa. So, thank you. I've come to Atlanta before and seen some of you, few, but I'm happy today to get to meet more of the Atlanta bhaktas, yogis. Actually, when we're in such a situation like tonight, it's very inspiring because immediately one feels at home because I'm in the company of those who are trying to improve themselves on the spiritual platform. Those people who are recognizing the spiritual dimension of life. So Johannesburg, where I come from, some of you may have heard, and South Africa as a whole may have a reputation. Anyone here without feeling any sense of you'll be reprimanded or whatever? What have you heard about Johannesburg or South Africa?
It's dangerous.
Beautiful. Barbed wire.
Say, speak up.
Barbed wire.
Barbed wire.
Barbed wire.
Barbed wire.
Dangerous.
Dangerous.
The best city.
The best city.
Very nice people.
Very nice people, yeah, very warm people. Actually, beautiful temples. Johannesburg has about 5. Yeah. So yeah, our sample, beautiful place. Although it's in the center of the country, beautiful nature. And nature is always beautiful because it is the nature of the Supreme. Right? Barbed wire, it's not for the animals, but it is to note that there's sometimes misguided 2-legged animals. And these 2-legged animals roam the entire planet. When a human presenting, as they say in today's language, person is not inquiring about the spiritual values of life, then although one looks like a human being, their actions are on the level of the animals. Therefore, when you put burglar bars and barbed wire, generally it's not to stop the lions and the jackals, but it's to stop human animals. The animal is that the consciousness where we operate determines how we can be classed. Right? Humans and animals share a few things in common. We'll be a little interactive. What interests do humans and animals share in common?
Eating.
Eating is universal, everybody likes to eat. Defending territory, yeah?
Bearing children.
Yes, procreation.
Gotta sleep.
Sleep, yeah.
Shelter.
Shelter, to be sheltered. So the basic needs, like, they don't really spend too much effort in maybe building homes per se, but the birds, they make their nests and such. So the human being who is concerned with simply how to find food, what to eat, where to sleep, how to mate, and how to defend their territory, and that is the thrust of their lives, is considered by the sages to be a human being who is still absorbed on the animal platform of consciousness. And for the animals, they don't actively gather to inquire and to conspire how to make spiritual advancement. And so that you've all come here means you are transcending the platform of the animals. So, feel edified that you are not the human animals. Although these days, this is not even an insult. I mean, persons who are a bit more sophisticated may feel insulted. People own this. Yeah, man, we're animals, bruh. What do you think? So, although the scriptures speak like this, it is to challenge us. That if you feel insulted to be called, a human animal, two-legged animal, it's like someone's pushing on your forehead. You animal. What do you mean I'm an animal? You want to push back. And then when you understand what makes you like an animal, then natural response is that you want to improve and show, no, I'm better than that. So the special quality of a human being is that they are aware, or at least interested, in the spiritual values of life. They understand that there's a deeper dimension to our identity. We're not just the body that we are living in, nor the mind, nor the senses, nor the intellect that helps us to move around, plan, but we are a conscious spark of life. And that spark of life is non-material. It is that spark of life that is seeking connection, seeking love, seeking bliss. Our topic is, what in the bliss is this chanting? So this is one of the technologies, and it is the main technology given in the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, where we find ourselves, for immediately giving the experience of the spiritual platform to any and everyone. Whether interested in spiritual life, whether deeply absorbed in the animalistic tendencies, or advanced on the spiritual path. This Hare Krishna mantra is divinity in sound vibration. So two aspects of God, or we call God Krishna, meaning the all-attractive person. The personal form of Krishna is said to be bending in three places. He can't help but be all-attractive. So those who come in contact with Krishna, by dint of his all-attractive nature, become hooked. Unfortunately, you have to come here every Thursday. You can't help because Krishna, his form, his speaking, his dressing, his sense of humor, his wisdom attract the mind and heart of living beings because we are his parts and parcels. We have an eternal relationship with Krishna. But in his personal feature, he is not manifest before us here in Atlanta. He has his own transcendental world, transcendental planet, where he is engaging with those who are simply enchanted, charmed, absorbed in his beauty, in his loving dealings, in his attractiveness. So how is Krishna then giving us association? It is said, Nama Chintamani Krishnas Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Punashuddha Nitya Mukto Abhina Tvam Nama Namino. Abhina Tvam Nama Namino says that the name of Krishna and the personality Krishna are non-different. The name and the named are the same. This is the spiritual platform of absolute reality. Unlike in this world, Srila Prabhupada would often cite, and this is the home, I guess, of Coca-Cola. We can give him a plug, that if you are thirsty, and you are like in Atlanta, no brainer, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, you start chanting Coca-Cola. Do you think that chanting of Coca-Cola will quench your thirst? I mean, if you do, you can say it. It's a safe space, we won't judge you. Generally, it will not. In fact, it may cause more thirst. And even when you get to drink Coca-Cola, they're designed in such a way that instead of really quenching thirst, they create more thirst. Have you noticed? Fizzy drinks. It's a beautiful business if you think about it. We give you something that's meant to quench your thirst, but it simply creates more thirst. That means you have to buy more. It's brilliant. But Coca-Cola, the substance, and Coca-Cola, the name, are not the same thing. Yet the spiritual world means Krishna. Krishna's name, Krishna's activities, they are none different from Krishna. So although Krishna is not personally walking around us, he is available fully in his sound vibration form, in the form of name. And since Krishna is the sum total of all enjoyable things, like the name Rama means the reservoir of pleasure. We are looking for pleasure. I may be mistaken. Anyone here who's opposed to pleasure? Like, I don't care for any pleasure. No takers. Huh? So we're all looking for pleasure. And this is the intrinsic nature of the soul. Because we are part and parcel of the supreme enjoyer, Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure. We similarly are seeking enjoyment and seeking pleasure because that is our birthright. However, we are looking for pleasure in different ways which may not actually connect us to the ocean of pleasure. We're seeking pleasure through the medium of this body. The body means the senses, and the chief sense, the mind. So we can touch many things and we can feel, oh, cashmere, this is very nice, silk. We may see something and it looks beautiful. We can hear beautiful sounds, taste beautiful foods. But that seeing, touching, tasting, smelling does not flood the heart with the substance of ananda. It may create some flickering pleasure. So there's a distinction between pleasures of this world and what we call in Sanskrit ananda, bliss. What we want is bliss. Bliss means that at every moment it tastes fresh, and at every moment it is increasing in its power to satisfy. And with bliss, there's no satiation. Enough bliss now. Just like you may love pizza. Hey, or your son. Yes, pizza. You can already taste it. He's closing his eyes in meditation. So, we'll engage you. You love pizza, and we bring you a box of, a small boy, a medium pizza. How many slices can you deal with? 2. But you love pizza. What if your father says, no, take 2 more? You can make an attempt, yeah? Try. Then you get through those and says, no, you love pizza, my son. Take 2 more slices. No. In fact, you don't want to even deal with it. Right? So the material world means that we get satiated, meaning we have no more capacity to deal with whatever sense object that we want to enjoy. In that satiation means we're not satisfied. You'd like to enjoy pizza, but you can't anymore, right? Stomach is full. Spiritual world means that the constant platform is that we are satisfied. And that satisfaction can only increase. And then because we have spiritual senses, even though we're in contact with the reservoir of pleasure, that we've perfected our seeing, the beauty of Krishna is ever fresh. One understands why I have these eyes. In fact, the residents of the spiritual world, the gopis, they are very cultured persons, refined character. So they are respectful to all. But we find that they are speaking bad words about the Creator. They're thinking, what idiot created these eyes with these eyelids that blink? We are interested in seeing the beauty of Krishna. And as we are trying to enter the ocean of Krishna, then these eyelids keep blinking. And they feel that blinking is like a millennium where they don't see Krishna. Krishna's friends, they walk with him in the forest, and sometimes Krishna is out of sight because he's walking behind a tree. And it said they feel to give up their lives just because they cannot see Krishna. So they've perfected their vision, and they don't want to be without the vision of Krishna. So the senses there are never satiated with Krishna. In fact, even when Krishna is out of sight, then they've locked him in their hearts and they're meditating about him. They can see Krishna. This is what we are looking for. Sometimes unfairly so, we demand it of other conditioned souls. We want them to be completely enchanting, completely funny, resourceful, and etc., etc. But actually, it is Krishna who is able to fulfill and tick every box of our list, you know? People have their lists, what they want in a friend, in a partner. So Krishna is so kind that he knows that we're stuck in Atlanta and we have to deal with what we're dealing with here. He doesn't leave us alone with no source of contact. He has incarnated in this age as this holy name. It is said, Kali, Kale, Nama, Rupa, Krishna, Avatar. In the age of Kali, the avatar, the incarnation, is in the form of the Nam Rupa, the form of the name. And when we chant this Maha Mantra, I remember the first time I went to a Krishna conscious gathering. I was a student. We were at the arts campus. We specifically liked the arts campus because there were a lot of herbalists there, and we would get our supplements and then feel a little bit more empowered to deal with the mundane. Then we got there was a nice talk, it sounded philosophical, it was, yeah. And then they had this little song, Hare Krishna. And I thought, what in the nursery rhyme is this? But it had, was catchy. 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the same sort of song. And I thought, hey, I've never felt like this. I don't even know what the song meant. We then went for a retreat a few weeks later to the Drakensberg. It's a nice mountain range in South Africa. People go there to unplug, And we had gone there. In the bus, the devotees were playing instruments, chanting Hare Krishna. We were still like city boy mood, just doing our own thing. What is this song? Yeah, but you can catch the groove, it's going on. We got there. In the evening, they were chanting like late into the night. The next morning, we went on our own morning routines just to plug in how we generally do. We came back, nobody was judgmental. You can imagine a group of 10 boys or so after they go and take their herbal supplements and come into this space. It's just too much. Nobody was telling us anything, they sat us down, they gave us some chanting beads and they taught us how to chant on the beads. Then there was a hike up the mountain. What was happening along the way? They were chanting Hare Krishna. We got to the summit, we had some prasadam, and they were chanting Hare Krishna, waterfalls, went down, chanting the song. Late into the night, chanting Hare Krishna. Sunday, we're driving back to the city, and it's playing on the whatever radio, they had like a CD or tape. And I was reading a book called Yoga for the New Millennium. And in there, I was reading about how this chanting is the yoga for the new millennium. People aren't so equipped to really follow yoga properly, but this, just by using your tongue, it just kind of hit me. I was telling a friend of mine, I said, Bubele, do you realize that we've been singing one song the whole weekend? He was like, what you talking about? I said, bruh, listen, Hare Krishna. This same, you remember when we drove there? Now he's trying to record it. Yeah, they were singing that we went. It only hit. And I was thinking, and I told him, bruh, if there's anything spiritual, then this must be it. Because how in the bliss can we be chanting one song a whole weekend? First, we don't realize it's one song. We loved this song. And so I had a conviction in my heart that I'll definitely get into this. Because I grew up from, there's a tiny country called Swaziland. It's famous also for its herbs. It's very good, like 8 hours, you're good. And I was thinking, hey, this is some other type of plug. Because there's, sometimes these artificial happiness solutions, it's like you're hijacked. Once you're on, you're just on this thing, you can't, and you wait, and then it's a big dip after that. This was clean high, clean fun. We went to bed, woke up in the morning and you can still hear the chanting and you're feeling good. So we didn't know why it was connecting. But when we start to hear the theology of the mantra, when we get to understand that this is the reservoir of pleasure in sound vibration. This is the all-attractive divine person in sound vibration. This is the beloved of our hearts in sound vibration. That anywhere, in any sort of dress, whether this melody or that melody, the essence is that Krishna, his qualities are rubbing off onto us. His blissful nature is rubbing off onto us. His good qualities are rubbing onto us. And therefore transforming us. And transforming us directly at the core, hitting the spot. Whereas everything else is just almost, for 10 minutes, 10 seconds, it just. This, for years, millenniums, eternally, Krishna will always be able to fulfill our hearts beyond our wildest dreams. So the bliss of chanting is always available, and much more as we become purified, then we're able to access more of this transformative power of the holy name, blissful experience of the holy name, to the point where everywhere our gaze falls, we can see the connection of everything to this beloved. Just like when you are like infatuated, or you kind of tripped and fell in love. Some people curse themselves, no, I've fallen again. Because they know that the heart is another language. All of a sudden you're like under a spell, right? And the ultimate spell is when we fall in love with Krishna. Just like it was when we're in love here, whether it's we love our friends, our kids, our partners, we tend to see the world in relation to our beloveds. You walk past the shop, oh, he would like that shirt. Oh, my baby would like this little dress. Oh, my partner would like this CD. Whatever it is seen in consciousness of the beloved. So Krishna consciousness means just that. Then now we see how everything around us, first of all, belongs to Krishna, and that it is meant to please Krishna. Then we ourselves belong to Krishna, are meant for Krishna's pleasure. And the happiness that comes from that consciousness is like a byproduct. It's no longer we are approaching Krishna because we are trying to extract some enjoyment from him. But we are approaching Krishna to try and please him. But what happens is that by trying to please Krishna, we become happy. So we are encouraging each other that let's tag team, let's partner up, let's keep this tribe going. Then we become protected, inspired by the association of those also who are aspiring for the deepest form of love, the deepest form of pleasure. It's not easy on your own because the world is not designed to help us escape into the land of bliss. This correctional facility is such that, especially when you're trying to escape, that's when the agents, you've watched The Matrix, they ramp up their offense, Oh, you trying to get out of here? But when you are within a group, when I am weak, he may be strong and he can support me. When I'm overwhelmed, someone else who's a little detached from my situation that's overwhelming me can speak to me higher wisdom and help me to understand what life has thrown my way. So Nama Chintamani Krishna in closing. The name of Krishna is like a touchstone. So we may not really have experience of touchstone, but we've all watched cartoons. Sometimes some character has like a magic wand, and wherever they go and they touch, the street transform into like golden streets or whatever it may be. So Chintamani is said to be the building block of the spiritual sky. That substance, when it's touched upon any metal, it transforms it into gold. Now the name of Krishna transforms the heart, which is generally hardened by all the embarrassments of material existence. Aren't we being embarrassed? This material world. It's actually like a series of embarrassments. But because everyone's going through it, we kind of, this is life. But when we get tired of being embarrassed in our quest to try and enjoy and become prominent or this or that, we approach Krishna. I've tried to enjoy, my eyes are red, I'm not satisfied. So the name of Krishna transforms the heart. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Because the name of Krishna is the form of all transcendental spiritual mellows. Chaitanya Rasa. So life means rasa. Rasa means juice, flavor. We're looking for different mellows to relish. And Krishna's name is the form of all sweet, loving mellows. Whatever we may hope for in different relationships, it is found in the name of Krishna in its fullness. Puna Shuddha, it is complete. Nothing's lacking in Krishna. It is completely pure. Shuddha. Nitya Mukta, it is eternally liberated. It is not a product of this material world where things are in the grip of time. We are warned that the intelligent, they don't indulge in the sources of misery. Yehi samspasha jaboga duka yonaya evata, Krishna says. Adyanta vanta konteya. Adi, beginning, anta, end. Those who are intelligent, Krishna says, they don't invest in the sources of misery. What are these sources of misery? The things of this world which have a beginning and an end. Especially our senses, we try to go into things that are temporary, and we put our life's energy into the temporary platform, then we lose. Time will take it away. So he says, those who are Buddha, who are intelligent. So what do they do then? Like people ask, what do you Krishna people do for fun? Hey, you don't want to know. We get down, like seriously. Yeah. Whether it's the culinary, we'll fill up this room with all sorts of food, and there's no animal that lost their life. All tasty, all colorful. Music, we don't depend on the grid, There may be no power, our instruments are independent. So we can go on the streets anyway. So there's music, there's philosophy, there's food. And we get friends that actually can support us on the most meaningful aspects of our life. So Krishna's name is then the central item for our spiritual progress, for our happiness, for solving the problems of material existence. If only we can put our faith and make that experiment, really make it part of our daily lives, then we will see that the show of material existence, it's not so scary to swim away from it. Because in the ocean of devotion, everything is catered for. Especially Krishna becomes our constant companion and friend, and we trust him and love him. So the bliss of chanting Hare Krishna is the mercy of Krishna giving his association to us in the form of his holy name. Because he's blissful, we are getting some fragrance of that bliss. The scriptures say one drop from that ocean of happiness is enough to drown the entire universe in ecstasy. In fact, Lord Chaitanya, they used to chant in the villages of Navadvip, and people would hear that chanting and go to see what's going on. And when they saw or heard the chanting, it was so enchanting, it grabbed them and they got swallowed in that kirtan. Others would come out, hey, what happened to so-and-so? They would also hear it, and like zombies. The magnetic pull. And you can well imagine the chanting of the associates of the Lord is completely off the material platform, completely pure and full of all the goodies, all the nutrition. Yes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I tell one short story. There was a devotee of Lord Shiva, and he had been worshipping Shiva. He understood that Shiva is known as Ashutosh. He's easily pleased. Well, heads and tails. He's also easily angered. So, like the mind is famous, you just kind of don't think about the negative side. Be positive. He went to Lord Shiva, look, he did all his worship, and I'm trying to get the best thing available. So Lord Shiva said, I don't have the best thing available, the most valuable thing, I don't have it. But there's this one devotee, his name is Sanatana Goswami. You go see him, he lives by a hut there near the river. So, completely psyched, the devotee went, he offered his obeisances to Sanatana Goswami, said, I'm a devotee of Lord Shiva, and he has instructed me to come to you and request from you the most valuable thing. He said, you have it. And Sanatana Goswami said, what do you mean valuable thing? He said, yes, you have the most valuable thing. He said, you mean the touchstone I have? He had a Chintamani stone. He said, yes. So Sanatana Goswami said, yeah, you can grab it. It was just there by the trash. So the man went and took it, and he was going home happy. I'm now going to solve all my financial problems. I have a touchstone. But as he was going home, and he reached home, he told his wife, our lives are sorted. We have a touchstone. And he said, so tell me what happened when you went to see Sanatana Goswami. He said, no, he was sitting there. He told me to get it. It was somewhere there by the trash. And then, the wife was a little more smart to say, trash? He gave you this stone and it was there by the trash, and you believe this is the most valuable thing? He said, Baba, you've been cheated. I can't believe you can be so slow. You go back to him. He cheated you. If it was the most valuable thing, why was he keeping it by the trash? So the man thought, oh yeah, it's true. He went back. Sadhu, not to be offensive, but you said this is the most valuable thing you have, but how come you kept it by the trash? And so Sanatana Goswami, devotee, is very merciful and kind. He said, I'm glad you came back. Actually, the truth is, this is not the most valuable thing I have. Oh, you have something more valuable? He said, yeah. And you're willing to give it to me? He said, yes, no problem. But one condition, you take this Chintamani stone and you throw it in the river, and then you can come and I'll give you the most valuable thing. So the man thought, oh, yeah. If this is not the most valuable, he tossed it. And he came back. And Sanatana Goswami told him to sit, as you may be sitting, some lotus position. And he said, this is the most valuable thing. He taught him, no cookies for guessing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, the chanting of Sanatana Goswami, like the massage of the beloved, he's not chanting just the syllables like we may be, but he's completely directly addressing Krishna. And by his chanting, he was able to really infuse the pure holy name into the heart of this gentleman. When he left there, he was really in ecstasy, in bliss, chanting. And he went home to report that now he has gotten the the most valuable thing. Instead of kisses, he got kicked. And here too, I'm sure, happily ever after, maybe he also trained his wife into the chanting to understand it was the most precious thing. But she thought, such a fool, you had a touchstone and you threw it in the river and you accepted this. What is this? Hare Krishna. So many people in our lives also may say like that, what is this Hare Krishna? This just, you're getting brainwashed. Srila Prabhupada would be always accused that he has come to the West and is brainwashing the people. Prabhupada had many responses. One, he said, yes, we are brainwashing because the brains are filthy, dirty. Sometimes he said, what brainwashing? They have no brains to wash. We're actually giving them brains. Yes, we should feel those words pushing us. So the holy name is the most precious asset. It is said, Golokera Premadana, Harinam Sankirtan. In the planet of Krishna Goloka, the richness of Goloka, or the most valuable thing, there is the name of Krishna. And that holy name has now been transferred and given to us. That same Maha Mantra, God Himself wants to come and experience the bliss of chanting that holy name. So that which God hankers to experience, what He enjoys, He's readily sharing with us. Right? The rich generally don't bring any and anyone in their circle of whatever they do. Here the Supreme Lord is bringing us, regardless of what county we're from in Atlanta. You come and you can taste the treasured substance of the spiritual world, this Harinam, this holy name. So thank you very much for taking part in this bliss of chanting. Keep at it. And this is one mantra that you can abuse. As much as you can chant, nobody's going to come and say, what is this? You're chanting too much. No. Overdose, perfect. Okay, so be encouraged to chant some more. Hare Krishna. Just in case anyone has any comment, complaint, chastisement.
Questions?
Not a complaint, but I'm new to chanting, and I'm training myself not to, let me just get done with my 16, I don't like that mentality. So how do I know when I feel like I'm improving or I'm getting really sore? What in your advice, what is the symptoms of you when you're getting a sore? Because I used to be a meditator, and I feel like chanting is so counterintuitive because, you know, when you used to be a meditator, you just sort of like drop your silence and a form, and you're kind, you know, like my instinct is to merge, right? And then when you're chanting, initially my brain was like, what are you doing? Why are you talking? Why are you opening your mouth? So it was like, so it takes me a while to sort of get absorbed. And so I'm training myself to chant more than 16 because sometimes in the middle or towards the last part of it, that's when you're really getting absorbed. And I'm not gonna go like, oh, well, I got my 16, oh, I gotta stop now. So how do I know that I'm doing, I mean, I'm not doing it, I'm not the doer, but that I am doing it right, to be pleasing to the Lord is my asked question.
Yeah, it's like eating.
I'm sorry.
It's like eating. If you presented a nice, well, it said this would be a nice lasagna, and you put in your own mouth, you chew, and you can tell if it's nice or not. With the chanting, because in the beginning we are diseased, it is said, like the jaundiced person, jaundice causes the tongue to taste sweet items to be very bitter. Or is it bitter or sour? I've never had jaundice. Who's ever had jaundice? Bitter. You've had, huh? India is so good. In the sense that, like, there's a lot of experiences that you get that just tell you, give you the full spectrum of what material life can offer. Yeah, I mean, like in India, you can stand here and there's an old person there, there's a cow doing something. It's not covered up so much, everything. You know, the West, we're good at sort of dressing it all up, so it all looks like it's a nice world when it's actually not such a wonderful world. So, jaundiced tongue means in the beginning, the chanting is not immediately connecting and creating all this bliss that we've heard about. But the cure for jaundice is that they give the person some sugar candy, something sweet. And as they continue to take that, then they regain the ability to taste the sweetness. So they push through the sourness. So once we have experienced some aspect of the sweetness of chanting, we are not motivated to chant every day because we are going to feel all this sweetness. But it creates within us a commitment to Krishna, that we are coming to spend time with Krishna. So chanting is like we are at the door and we are knocking. So if someone's knocking from the outside, it's not on them whether the person in the house opens or not. If you're trying to come in, your job is to knock. But it depends on the person inside the house if they want to open for you. So similarly, we are approaching Krishna as a service, and we are chanting the holy name. And it's up to Krishna if he cracks the door a little bit and, you know, throws us out some bliss dust. And then we find some experience. So most important in our practice is to commit to a fixed number of chanting. And if you maintain that and you're able to maintain that, you will be happy that you are honoring your relationship with Krishna. And whenever Krishna reciprocates with some taste, then that's just like a bonus to it all. But if we are going about it expecting always some exciting experience, then when that doesn't come, which is Krishna's prerogative to give a taste or not, then we may give it up. So kudos to you that you are actually now chanting not just to finish 16 rounds. This is very positive. And your experience is true. It tends to be that when we're chanting not to fulfill the obligation, those rounds tend to be sweeter because it's really out of our own volition to chant. And Krishna likes that. So if you are sticking to your commitment, that should be your happiness. And if you get some blissful experience, that's just some extras. Yeah.
Anyone else with a question? Raise your hand.
Hi Krishna, thank you for coming in such a wonderful talk that you're having with us. You mentioned something about there's a particular verse, I believe it's in Bhagavad Gita, where it says that the intelligence, no, that was something else, I'm sorry, but you said something about the intelligence is I guess, in the forefront of sense gratification. Or no, not intelligence, excuse me, you said the mind.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is at the forefront of sense gratification. So a lot of times, we hear this mind over matter, and one of the things I've discovered, in my studies, is that the mind is actually matter. The mind is subtle matter. So what can we do, within our chanting to keep that in check? That, that the mind is seeking its pleasure. The mind is seeking this false pleasures, so to say.
Yeah, we're in this marriage with the mind. And Lord Krishna says that the mind, uncontrolled mind is the enemy of the living being, but then controlled mind is the friend of the living being. So although the mind can be a disturbance in that it's a reservoir of all these impressions of sense enjoyment, and it's generally presenting those to us, we want to be happy, so it gives all these material options. We can't annihilate it, kill the mind. So the approach of the Bhagavad Gita is that one of the approaches that we have to parent the mind. If we take the mind to be like a child, the child is sitting there, the mother is driving, and the child keeps telling the mother, "Mommy, mommy, look at this, mommy, mommy, look at that." So the intelligent mother just says, yeah, oh, it's very nice. But if she would start looking at everything the child is suggesting, then, an accident can happen. So we have to learn to not take the mind so seriously and treat it like a child. And maybe tomorrow we can do that. And just postpone all its brilliant ideas for sense enjoyment. And meanwhile, feeding it, spiritual life. Of course, to manage one's own mind is not easy. To be your own guru is not easy. That's why we insist that we should hear regularly the discussions about making progress in spiritual life, hearing about Krishna. So what we are doing is that when we hear about Krishna, chant Krishna's name, then we are giving the mind a taste of Krishna, an experience of Krishna. And we are basically washing away those impressions that it holds precious from many lifetimes. And we have to be patient with training the mind. It may take us this whole lifetime, at least that's our dedication. Like sometimes you see people at the circus, they've become so familiar with like tigers and lions and call some tiger, "Hey John," it's got a name, the tiger, it's jumping through hoops. And when we are watching, what makes it more intriguing is we know what a tiger is capable of. And to see this man just living with a tiger like it's a cat from home. However, the scriptures are saying our mind we should always never trust it. We should always think like we are thinking, looking at the circus tiger, that this tiger could, what if it just pounced on this man, it could turn on him. So the mind, treating it as a child and also vigilant to watch, because it can sneak in. It's very good. It's almost like another entity within us. And Bhagavatam says it has godlike power. It is the chief sense. So it has a way of also being like a ventriloquist. Is it a ventriloquist? It seems like this is you. This is what you want. That's why modern men were struggling so much with such a, we lead with our feelings. You know, everyone's, I feel like, and what we feel we take to be what is true. Whereas like the feelings, they change so quickly. They really change. So the mind affects us most through the feelings. But we want to affect the mind by knowledge, so that at least we use it more for the thinking. Then our willpower is informed by what we've thought about, not what we feel. Although with Bhakti, it's the other way around. With Bhakti, sometimes it's, we don't have to be feeling to do something. We actually do our way into feeling. Like we propose you chant Hare Krishna and you think it's some alien mantra. What is this? But then you don't have any feelings about it. In fact, you may be worried about what am I chanting. But you do the chanting and then all of a sudden the feelings of chanting come. So yeah, the mind is a whole subject matter. I'm just presenting a few things that can help us. But ultimately, the medicine that is meant to really make the mind a friend is this introducing it to Krishna, and then let it slowly understand that actually we are happiest, we're peaceful when we're doing this Krishna conscious activity. And we all can testify that sometimes our mind is saying, nah, you're feeling a bit lazy, maybe I could do this. And it's just like, nah, let's go, man. Maybe the prasadam would be nice, the food, you know. But it's also spiritualized, that's why. So, yeah, it's a project, ongoing project with this mind.
In that lovely verse you quoted, Nama Chintamani, there is the part that says Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Vigraha is a form. Does the Nam also have a form of some kind?
Yes. The name is Krishna. The name is Krishna. Krishna is appearing to us in also the form of sound. Yes. So
The vibration is the form.
the vibration is the form of Krishna. Yes. It is. See, Krishna, he says, you know, I'm the taste of water, for example. Although Krishna is addressed impersonally, but he doesn't lose his personal feature. Like sometimes people say somebody is like a shadow of like the bodyguard, you know, he shadows whoever is. He's still a person, but he's addressed impersonally as a shadow. We say this guy is a force of nature. He remains a person, but he's addressed as a force, which is something impersonal. So the name also, vibration, seems impersonal, but actually it is personal and it is spiritual. It's a form of Krishna because he's absolute. His name and him are the same.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. We give one more round of applause for Maharaj. Before we end, we'll do one more round of kirtan with Maharaj, and then we'll have prasad for everybody.
Okay. Do a bit of a reggae melody. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Go, Hare Go. ki. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. What in the bliss is this chanting?
Krishna!
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.